Hi guys, so this week Lauren and I did our presentation on informed consent in social science and behavioral research. Okay, so we're going to start with a little overview of informed consent. Federal regulations, it is crucial for the research team. Okay, so we're going to start with a little overview of informed consent. Federal regulations require researchers to obtain legally effective informed consent. Informed consent in behavioral and social science research includes both the process of sharing information while also documenting that the process took place. The general expectation of human subjects is to be treated with respect and as autonomous individuals while also maintaining the right to make decisions about the nature of their participation and the extent to which their personal information is shared. However, in some cases, researchers need to deceive participants in order to obtain statistically valid data. Due to this complex relationship, investigators and participants must prioritize a thorough and honest conversation prior to the start of the study, while IRBs ensure voluntary consent is obtained through one of its many accepted forms. It is crucial for the research team to meet with potential subjects to lay out all of the important parts of the study, its objectives, protocols, and implications. Investigators will commonly use a key information table to highlight all of the major points before each potential subject makes any preliminary decisions. This includes the purpose of the investigation and a list of risks and benefits associated with participation. Although key information tables can be incredibly useful, they do not hold everything required for consent documentation, so the potential participants must continue to read the rest of the document as well to ensure full voluntary informed consent. Due to the complex and possibly unique nature of informed consent in each proposed study, its process must be broken down and analyzed individually. After recruitment and initial subject screening, researchers must answer any questions that subjects might have to ensure they understand the research and their role in it. The information presented to potential research participants must be comprehensible and clear, which may include researchers obtaining translators and consent forms in participants' native languages. Potential subjects are then given sufficient time to consider their options and decide whether or not they want to participate within the study. This process can be ongoing as questions might arise throughout the course of the study, as subjects have the right to stop participation at any time. In order to standardize the process of obtaining consent and to guide researchers as they create their study pamphlets, the required information that must be provided to research subjects is separated into two categories. The federal regulations at 46.116b, 1 through 9, describes the first category, referred to as the basic elements to be provided to subjects. These regulations state key points that every researcher must discuss with potential subjects, no matter the context of the study. Examples of these elements include the necessity to describe all risks and benefits, the extent to which confidentiality will be maintained, and the right of every subject to stop participation at any time. The second category of required information discussed in Federal Regulations 46.116C 1 through 9 lists the necessary additional elements to be included in the study overview. Not every study will have additional information beyond what is stated in the first set of federal regulations, but this list covers situational instances where further discussion is required to obtain consent, such as with a pregnant potential subject or in regard to any biospecimen obtained in the study. Broad consent is classified as a prospective consent for unspecified future research, including identifiable private information or identifiable biospecimens. Participants agree in advance to a range of future uses of their personal data rather than researchers reconfirming consent for each use of a participant's data or biospecimen. This form of consent has a wide scope and is not study specific, so researchers working with data repositories or biobanks utilize broad consent so that any personal and biological data can be used in the future. Although more hands-off, investigators are still required to include the basic elements all participants must know and a general overview of the study that could be conducted with their information.
There are instances when an IRB may waive the requirement to obtain parental permission for children to participate in research. This typically occurs when obtaining parental permission is not a reasonable requirement to protect a child. So it's most likely used in studies which involve minimal risk, such as surveys or interviews, or else when parental contact may be difficult or impractical. When waiving informed consent, there are criteria that must be met prior to IRB approval. This includes that the research poses no more than minimal risk to subjects. The waiver or alteration will not adversely affect the rights and welfare of the subjects who are involved in the research. The research could not practically be carried out without the waiver or alteration. Whenever appropriate, the subject will be provided with pertinent information after participation. The case study we'll be reviewing today is Merck's Gardasil HPV vaccine and the ethical concerns about its informed consent process. So in this clinical trial, a highly reactogenic aluminum adjuvant, also known as AAHS, was used as the placebo instead of a true inactive substance such as saline. This created concerns because the information was not relayed in the consent process or forms. So the participants were not aware of what was in the actual placebo. This is a violation of true informed consent, just because the participants were not fully informed of what was going to be happening throughout the clinical trial. In these clinical trials, Merck made several inaccurate statements to participants, which compromised their right to informed consent, as they were not fully aware of all the details of the trial. The major inaccurate statement was that the placebo was comprised of saline or an active substance, when in reality it contained Merck's AAHS or highly reactogenic aluminum adjuvant. This was also an issue for participant safety, as it did not appear to have been properly evaluated for safety and had major side effects as well. Another controversy of this clinical trial was the symptoms or side effects developed by participants from the Gardasil vaccine. Several trial participants experienced chronic disabling symptoms, and a study in guinea pigs showed that the vaccine caused necrotic tissue damage and massive inflammation that persisted beyond 1 month post-injection. 1 month post-injection also showed significantly elevated levels of liver damage markers. This is an example of how the informed consent was compromised, as participants were informed that the vaccine had already been proven safe, when in fact it had not. In conclusion, this clinical trial raised ethical concerns about informed consent, as the informed consent forms were seriously misleading and did not fully inform the participants of the composition of the placebo that was given. It needlessly exposed study subjects to risks without any possible benefit, which created it to be a violation of medical ethics, and also verified the importance of informed consent in all clinical trials. Our questions for this week's discussion board are: what is an instance where an IRB would approve researchers to utilize complete non-disclosure in a proposed protocol? List an example of when parental permission can be waived. Is this an ethical practice? Which of the 3 basic ethical principles discussed in the Belmont report emphasizes the importance of informed consent?